Before I begin, I want to give a shout out to multiple individuals who have been talking about this, whether directly or indirectly, and Kirigake Jones, who has used the main article multiple times in order to do his illustrious infomercial level videos. Yeah, Edward Anderson, you have some competition. And alongside that, I want to shout out Obsidian Media Network and O'Shea Duke Jackson for doing a hangout, particularly O'Shea doing a video about the subject at hand, which is how black men who are educated are dating outside the race. And today we're going to do a deeper dive into this, particularly with the Pew Research Center article that was cited by Obsidian Media Network, which was published on May 18, 2017, regarding intermarriage in the U.S. 50 years after Loving versus Virginia. This article, I'm going to put the link in the description. This is a very useful article, which I stated that multiple individuals have used time and time again, and I have a feeling that this will be used on this channel multiple times before it's all said and done with. But let's get into the juicy parts. If you open the link, you see all sorts of data pertaining to interracial marriage for all groups, not just blacks and non-blacks, but also you have interracial marriage dealing with whites, Latinos, and Asians. And all of these stats should be noted for all groups. So whenever you get the chance on, well, I can't say free Sunday or Saturday anymore since we all know what's coming up this weekend. Shout out to college football and the NFL. But in any case, whenever you get some free time, grab a good drink and look over this article. Just read over it, because thinking men read. Or if you don't have the time for reading it, at least get this via some sort of audible device. But in any case, trends and patterns in intermarriage. Now, while the correlation of getting a post-high school education and dating outside the race is consistent throughout the board for everyone, well, hold on. Is it for everyone? I'm looking here in which I see the numbers go up for black men who get some sort of college or bachelor degree, but for the other group, we won't get into that. This isn't going to be one of those videos where we drag our fair ladies down in the dirt. We aren't going to do that. We're just going to focus on the facts and the numbers. Now, if you want to follow me along in this article, around in the middle of page 1, where it says, for blacks, intermarriage has increased most among those with no college experience. Your mediocre Negro and your baby kid will say that, well, that statement means that if you have no college degree, you're more likely to get into an interracial marriage. No, Sherlock. This specifically means, as it's stated in this section, that interracial marriage throughout time has increased the most for those who have no college degree, as it states here. For black newlyweds, intermarriage rates are slightly higher among those with a bachelor's degree or more at 21%. Among those with some college, 17% have married someone of a different race or ethnicity, as have 15% of those with a high school diploma or less. Intermarriage has risen dramatically at all education levels for blacks, with the biggest proportional increases occurring among those with the least education. Now, here's where the explanation comes in. In 1980, just 5% of black newlyweds with a high school diploma or less had intermarried, a number that has since tripled. Rates of intermarriage have more than doubled at higher education levels, from 7% among those with some college experience and 8% among those with a bachelor's degree. Now, in this section alone, it basically states that black men in the 1980s with no college degree had a snowball's chance in hell to marry outside the race. Now, in modern time, they have increased their odds to about 17%. But as with black men with a college degree, our numbers have basically doubled. Let's continue. Among black newlyweds, there are distinct gender differences in intermarriage across education levels. In 2015, the rate of intermarriage varied by education only slightly among recently married black women. Yeah, here's where the bad news comes in, ladies. 10% of those with some college degree had intermarried, compared to 13% of those with a bachelor degree or more. Now, the odds of you marrying outside the race after getting your degree only by 3 percentage points, compared to black men who got their degree, your odds increased by 13 percentage points. That is a very stark difference, which for all of you who are following me in this article is as obvious as the day is long. Continuing with the article, meanwhile, among newly married black men, higher education is clearly associated with higher intermarriage rates. While 17% of those with a high school diploma or less had a spouse of a different race or ethnicity, in 2015, the share rose to 24% for those with some college and 30% for those with a bachelor's degree or higher. Now with that out of the way, let's have some fun and explain what this really means. We have been seeing the onslaught and attack of thinking black men no matter what we do. From leaving the hood, getting a higher education, to speaking English and liking obscure stuff, to now traveling outside the United States entirely. And especially with the recent events of how certain mediocre Negroes and babies kids have been criticizing thinking black men, and in some cases using accusations which outside the community would lead to lawsuits up the ass. All of this tells me one thing. A lot of people, not just the Scraggle Daggles, but a lot of individuals are afraid that their meal ticket is about to slip through their hands. And who's the meal ticket exactly? Well, it's simple. It's you, and me. All of us. We, as thinking black men, were designed to be meal tickets, and in many cases, meal ticket eunuchs for the former rotting corpse of the so-called black community. Shout out to Kirigake Jones for that quote. If you were not a deviant, if you were not a Pookie and Ray Ray, or in many cases, because a lot of these babies, kids, mediocre Negroes didn't know that life, if you weren't willing to parody and pretend to be part of that Pookie and Ray Ray lifestyle to fit into that image in order to impress a Scraggle Daggle that was raised near you, you were deemed the beta male. You were deemed the non-select male. You were deemed the non-warrior class. And as a result, you were seen as someone who would only be useful after you got everything in order. Just to have everything sucked up by the parasite class, as Man of Tomorrow states in multiple videos. A lot of individuals who are shrieking at your success are those same individuals who thought they could use you for whatever they could, and then discard you like yesterday's news. Well, a lot of these individuals are now realizing not necessarily the error of their ways, but the end of the gravy train. And as a result, we see the onslaught towards thinking black men intensify now more than ever. Now, to be honest, I'm sort of getting tired of stating this because I'm beating a dead horse in something that we already know, which is the demonization of thinking black men. And multiple media have been attempting to do this for years, if not decades. Whether it's saying that the black male image is that of a Pookie and Ray Ray, or the thinking black men, most of them are, you know, the G word that we can't use anymore. I mean, if this was YouTube in the 1990s, then I would have a lot more liberties in saying what a lot of individuals want to paint thinking black men as. And those who recognize thinking black men who date outside the race, well, there are plenty of shaming languages that will go along with that. But we've fought time and time against those shaming tactics and languages. And for the most part, we're able to steadfast in our convictions. But what is this really all about? What does this really come down to? Well, it's simple. The community's bailout plan isn't working as they planned it. The era of the stepdaddy is, well, it has ended. I mean, hell, there's been a mini discussion between Edward Anderson, shout out to him, and even George Macon, shout out to him, talking about the role of stepdaddies within the community. And while you have certain men telling you that you need to go back and clean up the mess that you had no responsibility in creating, there are those who are speaking on our behalf in order to say, one, that era is over as is, and two, thinking black men are the last ones who need to go back. Shout out to you, Edward Anderson, and your infomercials. But in any case, all of this basically states is that the community is aware of thinking black men and where they would likely or would probably end up. And to be honest, a lot of them say, well, they wanted to get outside the community. They wanted to leave. But what they won't tell you, and these are the same individuals who won't tell you how they shame light-skinned men and light-skinned women not to get with each other. Oh, that's a whole nother subject. That's a whole nother video. That's a whole nother arena. I'll let a non-black guy and light-skinned motivation take care of that. Wink, wink. I expect a video soon. But the same people who tell you that are the same people who won't tell you that they're the main ones who push thinking black men outside the community for whatever reason. Whether it's because they're intimidated by them, whether it's because they don't feel comfortable around them, or whether it's because they don't got that swag. You know, we all need the swag in the community. You need that swag pass in the community in order to stand a chance, not just at getting at the daggle. I mean, we're going to talk about that, but just having some damn respect around your name. Just having a social life, being invited to play pickup with the boys. Well, in many cases these days, pickup meaning pick up the 2K copy, boy. Pick up the 2K copy, boss. Man, we playing 2K, we playing that tonight. Oh, hell yeah, yeah. Or just being invited to the picnic or the barbecues by the relatives and the community. You know what I'm talking about. Just having a spot. And that's what all this comes down to. Peer pressure is a mother, in which a lot of baby's kids and mediocre Negroes won't admit that they are in fact some of the biggest victims of succumbing to the hood underclass peer pressure, which basically convinced them to dumb themselves down in order to stay in the graces of the community, not knowing that if they had resisted the community's demands of you being a double-digit IQ Negro, then you, one, would realize that, oh wait, you have more options outside the community. You have a 30% chance of getting outside the community. And even if you stay within the race, you'll still be outside the community. I mean, there are plenty of Lupitas and fill in the blank for whatever Haitian or non-Daguerreotypified Jamaican or non-Rihanna-fied Barbadian or Barbadosian chick that you can find and build a Stargate with, or South American black Latinas. I mean, if we can get the stats, if the manosphere had enough research money and capital and manpower and man hours, I would initiate a study on black men who are dating not just outside the race, but outside the community, meaning the non-scraggle-daggles. Let's see the real stats behind that. There are plenty of individuals who profess to building their stargates, even if they want to stay in the race, with non-Daguerreotypified or just non-Americanized black chicks. And even those who are Americanized black chicks, a lot of them will end up getting with someone who is basically a Tina, you know, the black cul-de-sac suburban girl, the Tina from around the way. Well, not necessarily around the way, because a lot of us don't come from the cul-de-sac. But the point of the fact is that a lot of these people fear thinking black men, regardless of your collegiate degree status, leaving the community. Because for every black man who leaves, regardless of the degree status, that is one less black man that the Daggle will be able to rely on as a stepdaddy, that the Daggle will be able to rely on as a beta bucks, and that her Pookie and Ray Ray counterparts won't be able to rely on for some sort of indirect excess stipend And even in the case of the simps who are talking down about black men dating outside the race and leaving the country, well, in their case, because they aren't getting any benefit from the community, these simps are just basically mad because they don't have the balls themselves or the ability to take advantage of leaving the community. And before I go, I want to note something here on the 17% of black men, particularly the tripling of black men who have a high school degree or less, dating outside the race. Now, I credit a lot of that, and I will bet you money that a lot of these high school or less men, or men for trade, I'm assuming with some college, these guys are probably counting in that category. A lot of them are probably getting picked up by either the working class white chick, the country white girl, Becky Sue, the thin one, not the thick one who Cooter and them don't even want, or they're getting looked at hard by Consuela and Maria, Latin Americans, in which a lot of people say, well, blacks and browns don't get along. You're in Los Angeles. The rest of us live in reality. But I think a lot of those individuals now, and you listen to these thinking black men, a lot of them, as I said, your Donovan Sharps, your C Boogies, they have ample amounts of stories where the majority of women they dealt with outside the race were either white women who were probably working class or Latino women. Note that, and note how even back in the day when interracial marriage was sort of looked down upon, the pairing that offended people the least were black men and Latina women. I can tell you this right now, going outside and dealing with society at large. I mean, when I was out with a Latina counterpart, not a lot of people cared. Not even Latino men. Hell, I'm still having Latino homeboys praising me whenever I get with one of their women. They're like, yeah, Chicana's the best, man. Man, you better get yourself a Chicana, a Mexicana, man. Or a Latina at least. Some fine ass Hanya, fool. Shit, that's our women, man. They'll treat you right the most. Fuck these white hoes, man. And yo, Asian chicks. Yeah, they treat you right, though, but they ain't got no body, though. They ain't got no body. Well, I don't even want to mockingly say it, but they don't got no body, fool. Yeah, man. And we know how you been bitching about them daggles and giving you no play because you sound white and you act white. And yeah, man, I mean, we roast you on that too, but man, we roast each other. You know what it is. I mean, I don't want to do a faux Latino impersonation, but to emphasize a culmination of what I've heard from my Latino counterparts and friends, that's basically what they've been telling me. Now, with the college-educated black guys, thinking black men, I think the sky's more or less the limit. I've seen us, especially in my position, being able to date white, Latina, and the elusive Asian women who, America has told time and time again, if you're gonna be an American citizen, you best get with Brad and Chad, or at the very least, don't get with Lawrence. Don't get with Lawrence. I mean, you want to be an Asian woman in America dealing with Lawrence? Canada's up the road. You take your ass up there. Oh, and we will be seeking out Canadian interracial marriage rates to determine what a truly meritocratic dating market looks like. Be on the lookout for that video. And everyone else out there, always bet on X.